Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, to this new phase that I'm starting. I know I haven't been uploading videos lately, but I've been updating my setup. I bought a new camera, lights, acoustic panels, and a lot of other things that will make the videos I create from now on of much higher quality. Today, I bring you an update of a video review on a virtual piano that, in my opinion, is the one every professional pianist using an electric piano should use. Yes, it sounds bold, but I have my reasons, and we'll discuss them in this video. I'm talking about Pianoteq 8 by Modartt, a French company. A few years ago, I made a video review of version 6. But now we're going to first go over the main features of the instrument, or rather the instruments, because we'll see that it includes many, and then we'll obviously see the new features that came out in versions 7 and 8. Pianoteq is made with physical modeling, which is a sound synthesis technique that, through mathematical algorithms, recreates a digital, virtual version of a real piano, taking into account all its elements, such as hammers, strings, keys, materials, soundboards, even the environment in which the piano is placed, and the microphone setups to achieve the final sound. And all this happens in real time. This gives us a much more cohesive sound, which is very different from sampled sounds. That is, piano sample libraries, which are basically pre-recorded sounds of each note, layered together as you play, creating a somewhat artificial sensation in the sound. Because in reality, when playing a real piano, if I play a C and a G, it's not the same to hear a recording of a C plus a recording of a G as hearing a C and G played together on a piano. There are many interactions between the strings vibrating simultaneously, or maybe a pedal is pressed, so the other strings vibrate sympathetically due to the vibrations of the strings being played at that moment, affecting the final sound. So, many factors interfere with the final sound. Physical modeling gives us, first, this feeling of playing a real piano, but virtually, and on the other hand, it allows us to modify any element of the sound. This means that if we want to change something very specific, for example, the material of the hammers, or the hardness of the hammers in different dynamic ranges, or for example, the length of the strings, or the material of the soundboard, anything we want to modify about the sound, we can do it. Maybe these details of interactions between elements, taken individually, are almost imperceptible. That is, the listener might say, yeah, they sound similar, honestly, there's not much difference. But for the pianist, that is, for the professional who feels the instrument's feedback, an experienced pianist who can feel what the instrument gives back when they play, that interaction is noticeable, and it's very noticeable, creating a much more cohesive sound. It feels like you're sitting in front of a real piano. Another big advantage of Pianoteq is the number of instruments it includes. There are many pianos from various brands and models, like several models by Steinway. A noteworthy detail is that Steinway endorses Pianoteq to use its brand, ensuring that the virtual Steinway sounds faithfully reflect the sound of a real Steinway piano. This is a huge plus. Besides grand pianos and upright pianos, we also have, for example, piano predecessors like the clavichord, antique pianos, electric pianos of various models and brands. We also have other instruments like marimba, harp, and even an acoustic guitar. While editing this video, Modartt sent me a new sound they released just days ago. The Bösendorfer 280 VC piano, available as an additional instrument pack. It sounds incredible. Listen to how it sounds. Did you hear that sound? The highs, the definition, the body of the bass? I was fortunate enough to play a real one in Aarhus, Denmark, at the Piano Clavier Academy, run by my great friend Patricio Moya, a phenomenal pianist whom I send my regards to. The Bosendorfer was one of the pianos I enjoyed the most during that time, and now I'm thrilled to have a virtual version that I can play anywhere. Now, let's get back to the original video. Each of these instruments comes with a bunch of presets for different production situations, and obviously we can also create our own presets and even share them with other users. This gives us an enormous palette of sounds for any type of production. The great thing is that the Pianoteq installer is only 50 megabytes, meaning it doesn't compare to the gigabytes and gigabytes we would need to have the same thing with sampler technology. Although I should tell you that Modartt gave me the Pianoteq license so I could make this video, the reality is that I've been using it for several years for all kinds of productions, playing live, recording different musical styles, basically doing a ton of things in my day-to-day. And everything I'm saying, I genuinely believe. For those who know me or have been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm an enthusiast of this type of virtual instruments and music technology. I've tried many pianos from various technologies and brands, and honestly, today I feel confident in saying that Pianoteq is the best virtual piano out there. Well, here we have the Pianoteq interface. On one side, we have the preset selection with different pianos. Each of the pianos has several models from which we can choose. My favorite is the Steinway D. We have various presets: the classical preset, or for example, another one I like a lot is the jazz preset. It has a sound with a bit more body, doesn't it? Another one that's really nice is the cinematic preset. Notice how the background changes depending on the environment. And obviously we also see the piano we're playing. Other pianos, for example, Bechstein. I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. It has a different timbre. I like this one too. We also have others, for example, the Cosmic preset. Then we have another piano here, and Petrov. Here we have the player's perspective, the one playing, and we should hear the high notes on the right-hand side. Let's try the Petrov Mistral. Let's test the classic recording preset. We also have Steingreber piano, and here's recording 1. Grand Grotrian piano, there's also the preset called Felt. We also have upright pianos. And of course, electric pianos like the MK1. or the MK2. Vintage reeds.
And then y luego tenemos
And then we have other instruments, for example, the toy piano.
toy piano.
It's a very little piano. Marimba, for example. Xylophone.
Y luego tenemos algunos instrumentos.
Then we have some instruments like the handpan, which I really like. It has a very unique sound.
Particular. Luego tenemos arpas, concert harp.
Next, we have concert harps.
Sí, por ejemplo. Y la que más me gusta,
And my favorite,
que es Celtic harp.
the Celtic harp.
También tenemos
We also have an acoustic guitar.
guitarra clásica.
For example, In my opinion, it's the least convincing of all.
menos logrado de todos, es muy difícil.
It's very difficult to emulate an acoustic guitar.
Nunca va a sonar como una guitarra.
It will never sound like a real one, but it comes pretty close.
Tenemos también
We also have piano predecessors. For example,
processors, ¿sí? Por ejemplo, clavicordio.
various clavichords. The Smith Square Original. This is useful for any type of production. Imagine filming an old movie where a clavichord is used. You can choose whichever you like. Wherever there is a clavichord or an antique piano, whichever you prefer. These were played by Mozart, Beethoven. They are from the year 1780. And here we also have another collection, more historical instruments, the Krenzer collection.
Por ejemplo. Bueno, y ahora les voy a mostrar una
Now I'm going to show you a feature Pianoteq has starting from version 7, which is one of the most interesting ones,
que es layer,
layers and morphing.
que es básicamente
It's basically mixing two instruments.
layers es
Layers allow you to play one instrument on top of another.
encima de otro, ¿no? Por ejemplo, layer.
For example, we can layer a Steinway classical
Junto con, por ejemplo, un MK.
with an MK2.
Obviamente,
Of course, we can choose how much of each instrument we want.
¿sí? Si quisiéramos más.
For instance, we can make it 50-50.
Obviamente podemos mezclar
We can also mix different presets,
Steinway de Classical, podríamos ponerle en vez de,
like combining the Steinway classical
por ejemplo,
with a cinematic preset.
bueno, ahora les quiero mostrar,
Now, I want to show you the same thing, the same mix,
pero en vez
but instead of doing a layer, meaning instead of hearing one and then the other, we'll do a morphing.
entonces vamos ahí a
We'll close this and set it to morphing.
morphing. Y ahora sí.
Now, In layer 1, we'll set it to the same thing as before,
Clásica.
classical,
Y acá
and here, an MK2.
bueno, ahí
For instance, if we wanted to use an MK1 instead of MK2, which is a bit softer, we can do that. The MKI sounds a bit less broken than the previous one.
y por ejemplo, si
If we wanted more of the electric piano sound,
eléctrico, fíjese cómo cambia
notice how the interface changes when it leans more toward the electric piano
el piano anterior. Que
than the Steinway. Let's try adding a jazz preset
el jazz.
and make the piano stand out a bit more. It's a mix between the parameters of the different instruments,
Haciendo que suene.
creating a sound that doesn't actually exist.
No es la suma de
It's not just the sum of the two sounds,
la mezcla
but rather the blend of the physical parameters that generate the sound of each instrument,
de los instrumentos. Hasta
resulting in a completely new instrument.
¿sí? Es como una
We can create all kinds of unusual mixes.
más rara que se imaginen, ¿no? Por ejemplo,
For example,
mezclar
let's mix a guitar
una guitarra.
with a piano.
Vamos a mezclarlo con este piano. Vamos a hacerle que predomine
We'll blend it so the piano stands out,
¿sí?
but with a touch of the guitar.
Toque de ok. Otra de las cosas
Another thing I love is that you can randomize.
hacer random, es decir,
You press that button and it generates new sounds.
bueno, obviamente aparte de instrumentos
Of course, aside from mixing strange instruments,
nuevos,
you can also create new pianos by blending two existing piano models.
está mezclando este Steinway Studio.
For instance, here it's mixing a Steinway Studio with a Frenzel 440. randomize. More random. It's out of tune because it's mixing an instrument tuned to a different pitch with a celesta at 440 Hz. Let's see this one. Well, obviously we can add effects too, right? Reverb, for example, here we're going to add a large hall. Let's bring it in too. Delay and wah-wah. So we're using the mix of... but this is a tongue twister. Blüthner Prelude and Planet N. With tremolo, delay, wah-wah, and reverb effects. Let's see how it sounds. Well, anyway, there are endless possibilities. We keep hitting random. Let's take off the wah-wah. Well, in this case, it's two marimbas. Let's see how interesting. A kind of clavichord with a tank drum. Well, let's see once. Let's see, one more. The random is addictive. And as I was saying, with the layers feature, you can mix more than two instruments, right? If we go to layers, you can mix more than one, as many as we want. For example, this one with a vibraphone, with add another layer. No, we can only add up to 3. Well, and we can also add in the morphing section, not just 2, but up to 3 or 4 instruments, for example, random.
esta parte.
I got really into this part because honestly, it's one of my favorites.
Vamos a repasar un poco
Let's go over the interface a little beyond what I've been showing you about how to choose presets.
cómo elegir los presets. Lo que podemos modificar
What we can modify, for example,
Steinway.
I'll select the Steinway Classical to show you the different things we can do to the sound.
Esto ya
I already covered this in detail in the Pianoteq 6 video, but now I'm going to go over the most important features. We open the lid, so to speak, of this part,
y tenemos
and we have tuning to handle the tuning section.
afinación.
Temperament, right? Well, here if we wanted to tune it to 4, 42, or whatever you want, you can do it. The temperament section allows us to change different tunings. In my case, I honestly don't mess with that part. Unison width is basically when we have more than one string per note,
Que eso pasa
which happens in a piano in the central and upper parts. In the central part, we have 2 strings per note, and in the upper part, we have 3 strings per note. And those strings can be more or less in tune with each other,
más o menos
adding a certain character to the sound.
como un juego al
For example, listen as I play a single note.
y ir moviendo
And I move the unison width back and forth.
para un lado y para el otro. Fíjense ahí,
Notice how there it's more out of tune with each other.
tiene como ese
It has that beating effect, and if we exaggerate it, you can hear it. It's that typical honky-tonk sound, I think it's called, or something like that. I like to use it in the middle. Honestly, depending on the production you're working on, you can make it more or less out of tune, but from the middle downward, you almost don't notice the difference.
luego
Then octave stretching,
que es
which is how much the piano will be detuned towards the extremes.
eso nuestro oído
Our ears don't perceive notes as mathematically perfect. That is, if we tuned the piano perfectly mathematically, we would hear it as out of tune. So,
se usa
a tuning technique is used where the extremes are slightly detuned, so that our ear perceives it as more harmonious.
lo escuché más armónico.
We can exaggerate that effect or not, for example.
Es casi
It's almost imperceptible, but you can notice it a bit. Well, we won't look at all the parameters exactly. I'll just go over the ones I consider the most important. In this case, these two here, on the one hand, we have the hardness of the hammers. That is, the material that hits the strings of the hammers, in different dynamic ranges, in piano, mezzo, and forte. For example, notice if we press the key softly
y vamos
and move it to this side.
hacia este lado. ¿Sí? Como se escucha más
How the sound is more muted because the felt is a bit softer.
como suavecita, ¿no? Al contrario de si lo pusiera
Contrary to if we made it a bit more aggressive.
agresivo.
Depending on the style of music, we will want one thing or another, and we can adjust this in the 3 dynamic ranges.
En los 3 rangos dinámicos.
As I said, in piano, as I just mentioned, in mezzo, and forte.
¿Sí? Entonces podemos
So we can achieve a tailored sound. Then, I'll reset it, because otherwise...
Luego tenemos la parte de los
Then we have the part of the sound's harmonic spectrum.
armónicos del sonido. Esto es
This is similar to an equalizer, but it's not an equalizer, because it's not based on frequency, but on harmonics.
armónicos. Por ejemplo,
For example, notice how it changes. Let's change this harmonic here, for example. Let's exaggerate it. For example, number 7. As it moves to the right, the harmonics become higher, and to the left, they are lower. For example, let's enhance the first one. The sound has more body, there we can achieve the sound we want. We can combine it to our liking. For example, I'm going to do something random just so you understand how the sound changes. We can achieve, starting from a preset and modifying all these aspects, highly customized sounds. Let's reset it again. Then, the hammer noise. Strike point is where the hammer hits the string. Which part of the string? And soft pedal, well, in this case, I don't have a soft pedal, but we can use this button. It's the pedal that shifts all the hammers to one side, and they hit only one string instead of 3 or 2 strings in the upper and middle sections. And this slider adjusts the intensity of the soft pedal. Here in the design section, we have impedance, cutoff, Q factor, which are all elements that we can adjust within the physics of the instrument. Impedance, for example, is how long the sound resonates in the piano's soundboard. For example, notice how it continues resonating. Contrary to the midpoint. Then cutoff and Q factor are, did you notice that when we play, the high frequencies fade away? At first, when we play hard, the high frequencies are strong, and the first thing that fades is the highs. Well, those highs have a cutoff frequency and a Q factor, meaning how quickly they fade away. Those are the parameters here, see? If we adjust the cutoff over here, well, anyway, these are all parameters you can play with. The length of the string, for example. How long the string is, physically speaking. It generally affects the bass part of the sound a bit more. Notice how it distorts a bit more and has more harmonics when it shortens, and when it lengthens. Right? Sympathetic resonance is when the strings are left open, either because we press the key and the damper lifts, leaving the string open, or because we press the sustain pedal. In that case, all the dampers lift, and those open strings will sympathetically vibrate with other strings, for example. It's easier to show with the sustain pedal. Notice if I press just one key. versus if I press the sustain pedal and then the same key.
¿Sí?
Do you hear that reverb-like sound in the background? Well, those are all the strings vibrating in sympathy with that sounding key. The same thing happens, for example, when I press a key. For example, I'm going to press a D, but I'm going to press it very softly so it doesn't sound, so that the damper lifts from the string, leaving the string open. And now notice what happens if I play an A. I'll play it quickly and release it. The D kept vibrating with a harmonic of the A.
¿Sí?
And notice how well done it is. If the D is pressed, it won't be the same as if I press any other key. Depending on which key I play, one harmonic or another will vibrate. Notice if I play, for example, a G and higher. The D above resonates.
O por ejemplo,
Or, for example, notice a C.
un do.
There's almost nothing there. Let's try an E against a G. Notice how the harmonic keeps vibrating.
Bueno, todas esas cosas son las que hacen
All those things are what make the instrument sound so blended,
el sonido tan
and it feels like a real instrument, because all these details contribute to the sound quality. Imagine, this couldn't be achieved with samplers alone. Well, the other parameters, if you want to see them in detail, you can go and watch the Pianoteq 6 video. Let's move on to the mic placement section, which I also want to highlight, which is how we want to mic this virtual piano, which is recreated mathematically, algorithmically, so to speak. We can use different microphone models, place them wherever we want. In this case, for example, we have two that are close by and two that are further away. And here we can choose the mix we want to have. For example, let's listen to the first two. And we can change the model. For example, here we can put a DPA and another DPA. And we place them a bit closer. Let's set up the classic X pattern there. We can also add a delay to one of them. These were the ones that were further away. Let's put them back where they were. Further away, for example, so you can hear the difference. Place them like this too. And then there are two more that are placed inside the piano, which we can also change their orientation however we want. If we wanted to place it under the piano, for example. Just to give an example, let's disable the other two. Well, in short, we can play with this as we want, as if we were in a recording studio. Each preset has its own mic placements. For example here, closed mic. Our two microphones close up. We can change the stereo width if we want more mono, or more stereo. And lastly, we have the binaural mode, which is like if we were wearing headphones. That is, with microphones in our ears, as if we were present in the room. We can position ourselves in different parts. Or right up close. The sound possibilities it offers us are truly infinite, because we can change both the characteristics of the instrument itself and how we're going to mic it, and obviously effects and all those things. Another feature I really like about Pianoteq is the ability, as I showed you before in the layers section, to modify the condition of the instrument. That is, how good are the conditions of the instrument we're playing. If it's new, this slider will be at 0, as it is now. And we can change it. For example, 0.5. Notice that some notes are slightly out of tune, or one sounds a bit louder than another, so the instrument is a bit worn. Obviously, we can exaggerate it a bit more. To the point where it starts sounding kind of bad, right? Seriously out of tune. We can even exaggerate it to the maximum. Notice how the interface also changes. That's spectacular. This is a piano that has been through a lot. But well, for a production where we need someone to play a detuned piano, we can achieve it with a virtual instrument. And the level of detuning that you want. You can even mic it however you like. I repeat again, infinite sound possibilities. This is the same with all the piano models. If we switch to another, for example, this one here. Exactly the same, just with the sound we've chosen. Well, here we have the velocity curve. So if we have a piano that needs adjustment of the curve, or it's too hard, or it's too where it sounds loud faster, we'll adjust with the velocity curve. Or the other way around. Then we also have some other features like action, which are basically the noise of the keys and different sound mechanical details that we can change. Which of course, I repeat again, I covered in the Pianoteq 6 video. We also have a normal equalizer. Then we have note effects, which are basically vibrato and tremolo. Both are affected by the modulation we have chosen. For example, here we have, if we want to add vibrato, let's change the rate. Or tremolo. Or both. And we have other effects like delay, reverb, and other EQs that we can add. Personally, I usually use external effects, because when I'm doing a production, I don't want to have a reverb for each instrument. But if we're playing the piano solo, these are very good effects. We have a bunch of reverbs. from places already prepared for a piano.
para el piano.
Delays,
Es decir,
things we can use to enhance the sound as we like.
bueno,
Lastly, I also want to mention that each of these parameters I'm showing you
muestro
can be modified note by note.
nota por nota. Por ejemplo,
For example, unison width. If I double-click on it, this is in the Studio version. Well, the Studio and the Pro are the same. We can change this parameter not only globally,
de forma global, de forma
but also individually.
cada nota. Y
And now we also have these points here,
estos aquí que nos permiten
which allow us to move notes in groups.
en grupos las notas, ¿sí? Podemos hacer
We can do it individually or by moving these points.
puntos.
For example, if I want more unison width in the middle and not at the ends, for example, it's possible.
Lo mismo
The same applies to any of the parameters that allow us to modify the instrument.
permite modificar el instrumento, ¿sí? En todos. Inclusive
In all of them, we can even detune certain notes in particular.
en particular. Si queremos que un si bemol
If we want a B flat to be detuned, we can do it.
bueno.
We also have a way to add presets to favorites.
Favoritos,
Here, with the little star,
podemos agregar
we can add different presets to favorites,
presets a favoritos. Entonces lo tenemos
so they're more accessible later. And obviously, we can also create our own presets and save them.
y por ejemplo, si esto
For example, if we want to create a morphing between this and something else, like a vibraphone,
y lo quiero guardar
and we want to save it, we click there, and here we give it the name we want,
y lo guardamos
and save it inside the
¿sí?
My Presets folder. Save, and we'll have it here.
Bueno, y
We
también
also have a preset browser where we can search,
podemos ir buscando, ¿sí?
and it shows them here on the left,
Y obviamente también nos va mostrando.
and it also displays the corresponding information here. Finally, we can freeze some parameters.
Por ejemplo, yo
For example, I usually freeze the volume.
generalmente a mí me gusta
Generally, I like to keep the volume lower, set it at -4 decibels. It also has a limiter there if I want to use it, and we can freeze this parameter between the volume that we want. And if I change the volume and then want to switch to another preset, it will revert to how it was before.
yo lo
So I set it to -4. Well, -4.1,
le doy a
I hit freeze,
y aquí
and here we choose main volume
main volume. ¿Sí?
and close.
Entonces ahora cuando
Now when I change, the main volume stays at -4.1.
lo mismo
The same can be done for any other parameter.
está bueno.
It's great if we want to change the sound without having to adjust a parameter that we always use the same,
O la-
like the velocity curve.
acá también podemos hacer,
Here we can also choose to have a global velocity curve for when we change any preset.
¿sí? Para cuando cambiemos en cualquier preset. En fin,
In short, we have an endless amount of possibilities within Pianoteq.
con la
With the number of instruments it comes with, plus all the parameters we can adjust,
más los efectos,
plus the effects, the morphing, the layers, it's a whole universe of production possibilities. Very well. Pianoteq has several versions. We have the stage version, the standard version, the pro version, and the studio bundle.
cualquiera de estas
Any of these versions include the possibility of using the iOS app, which is a great piece of info because all those who use Apple, that is iPhone and iPad, will be able to use Pianoteq on their devices. I personally am an Android and PC user, but if there's a reason I would buy an iPhone, it's for this, precisely, to have Pianoteq on the phone. So, it's a really good tip.
le dejo por aquí la-
Here, I'm leaving the Modartt website so you can see what each version includes, and you can also buy instrument packs separately.
separados, es decir, podemos tener la versión
That means we can have the standard version and purchase instrument packs as we need them. Now let's move on to the trickiest topic, the prices. Yes, the cheapest version is $140 and the most expensive one is around $900. I know these prices aren't very friendly for Latin America. I live in Argentina, and I know how hard it is to buy things from abroad. But we also have to acknowledge that if we are professional musicians, we have to invest in our equipment, and the virtual part of the equipment is very important nowadays. So, if we take into account the competition and all the instruments and features that Pianoteq offers, the truth is that the prices aren't that outrageous. Pianoteq can run as a standalone app, meaning you can open an executable on Windows, Mac, Linux, and as I mentioned, on iOS. It also comes with plugin versions for any type of DAW, such as VST, audio unit, meaning any program that you use can run Pianoteq as a plugin. Now I'm going to share with you a series of tracks that I've recorded both live and here in my home studio, so you can see Pianoteq in action. But before that, if you liked the video, I'm going to ask for a bit of support. Please give it a like, leave comments with ideas for new videos you'd like to see, subscribe and turn on notifications. Now that I have everything set up, I'll be uploading much more content. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please share it because it helps me a lot to grow the channel. Let's give the algorithm a little boost. Thank you so much for watching the video up to this point. See you next time, and I'll leave you with the music.
Lo único que yo quiero, no me hagas sufrir más.
ya no está. Es preciso callar. Busco en el fondo de mi alma todas las cosas que vi. Esto y aquello lo llevo hasta el fin. Aquí, sí, no sé a dónde ir. Es momento de estar. Tengo lo que necesito para verte sonreír, soltar un poco lo que no está aquí. Así, y al fin despertar este corazón aquí dentro y abrazar cada fibra de lo que soy de verdad. Solo así podré realmente amar.